Thank you for tuning in to Wednesday Inspirational Book Lounge. I'm your host, Anna Murby. Today we welcome back Pastor Hubert Carl as he reads to us the well-known Green Leaf in Drought Time, a harrowing missionary story of a family who gave up everything to do pioneering missions work in inland China. Enjoy the show.
Green Leaf in Drought by Isabel Kuhn, published by China Inland Mission, 1959. Read by Hubert Carl. Chapter 3. Kingfisher Contends for the Prey. Arthur and Wilda had decided to apply for exit permits to leave China. This was done after much prayer when the order came refusing them ministry outside the compound, and they both had peace about it. This was increased when they learned that their letters advising the missionaries of this decision had crossed one from headquarters to them ordering them to evacuate, telling of the agreement with all the members of the CIM should withdraw from China since it was clear their continued presence was going to hurt the Chinese church and endanger it. In their innocence, they expected that their application to leave would be approved quickly, as the Red government so obviously did not like them. Letters of this period hum with a happy note as they prepared for the long road journey out. Their interest in the salvation of the Mongols had not lessened, but events only corroborated the fact that God was not going to use them as this instrument. Dr. C had been made head of the local medical association. Within a few days he had ordered the clinic in the Mongol Inn to be closed, and the Chinese home missionaries were told to find rooms elsewhere. Arthur's stipulations that they were to use it as a base was ignored. The boys were discouraged, and one of them, John, decided to go home, and Ben and Timothy started out for Huanglong for a time of ministry among the churches there, always returning to Huangwan as their base. Arthur felt sorry that the Chinese church had not helped these lads more, but executions had already begun, and everyone was in a peril of his life. Arthur wrote, "The pastor told us today that when we go, they were getting prepared and knew we could not last here. Then they were going to try to run a creche here for the soldiers' children. They know that the moment we go, the premises will go. Thus our work here and our value, as far as the church sees it, are to keep others from moving in here to live. We have tried everything with all our hearts, and had faith that the Lord would have something for us here. But he has shown us clearly that the doors are shut purposefully at his willing. So with clear conscience, we are thinking about trying the only door that seems open to the moment. One of the government regulations for foreigners leaving the land was that they register every single article that they were taking out with them. So Arthur and Wilda began to sort their possessions, selling everything that would not be needed on the journey out. Down came the curtains, and even the tablecloth was sold. All the simple pretties with which Wilda's beauty-loving soul had tried to dress up the barren rooms and made them more homelike. In a week or so, they would be on their way, they thought, and so they could do without table covers and china. They retained only the tin plates, bowls, and mugs which they would need to use on the truck journey out. Wilda did keep her pressure cooker, as she meant to take that home to America with her. A Christian Russian family had come into town, and they bought quite a few things, and Wilda gave them still more, for as believers they were not popular with the regime. The application for permits was filed with the authorities on January 3rd, 1851. But day after day passed, and there was no indication that anything had been done about it. It was not wise to ask. They would be curtly put in their place, for the regime claimed to be perfection with its workings. By February, news drifted through of false accusations leveled against one of our missionaries in another place. Whenever there was one missionary especially beloved by the Chinese, the communist trumped up the vilest of accusations against him or her. A case in point was the false denunciation and murder of the beloved Dr. Wallace in Canton. Arthur learned that the accused missionary, among other things, was charged with immoral treatment of women servants. This he took as a warning. On February 18th, Arthur went to his wife. "Wilda, Senegal will have to go. Sorry, but we cannot afford to have her presence in the kitchen when I am lighting the morning fires. Used to besmirch my character. I'd rather be made of all work than have such lies trumpeted against me." Daily he had morning prayers in Mongolian with the teacher and his wife. Ben often joined them. They were professedly Christians, but now that the missionaries were to leave, There was no point in their continuing to study Mongolian any longer. So the two were called in, and in a loving, friendly way, the severance was explained, and they decided to go back to sinning. Thus the compound was shorn of two more friendly faces. Still no reference was made to their exit. Toward the end of February, Arthur wrote to his parents, "One day we are bright and cheery as crickets, and the next as down as possible it is to be. The temptation keeps coming to think that our way is hid from God, but we know He cares and plans." On March 8th, there seemed to come a break. The government official from the central government had arrived who was to inquire into the application for exit of all missionaries. They nicknamed him Kingfisher, from the character which represented his surname. Now things would get along. Arthur was summoned to the police station for an interview. A few days before, they had received a letter from Mr. J.R. Sinton, one of the missionary directors, saying, "I've just signed a paper which you will all be signing soon, I presume." They did not know what he referred to, but when Arthur appeared before the Kingfisher, this gentleman appeared very friendly. He explained his purpose in coming and asked Arthur if he would sign a paper which was a petition for world peace. Thought Arthur, "This is it. I am for world peace, most certainly." And without further contemplation, he put his signature on it. The Kingfisher looked pleased and said, "Now what contribution are you ready to make for world peace? You have signed a petition for it. I would suggest that since you were in India while you were in the British Army, that you ask your mission to send you there as a missionary. We would give you an alphabet number, say Mr. X, and once a year or so you could make secret reports to another, say Mr. P. Both you and he will be carefully guarded as your family identity, and it is just a little matter of helping forward the cause of peace." In a moment Arthur saw the trap into which he had been led. By world peace, Kingfisher meant a world conquered and dominated by communism, and this was an invitation to become a fifth columnist in India. The Kingfisher smilingly hinted that once this arrangement was made, their exit papers would be arranged quickly. Aghast, Arthur began to back away cautiously, not absolutely sure what he understood the proposition, and not willing to give offense until it was necessary. He was told to go home and consider, and come back the next day with his answer. On his way home, Arthur saw, pasted on the city walls, large notices with red checks through lists of characters. They were the names of those who were to be executed the next day, those who would not cooperate with the regime. If he were killed, what would happen to his wife and child? He shuddered. Years later he would say, "I wonder if Daniel's 3 friends had a little girl at home with sweet, pure face and small, trustful hands. When they chose the fiery furnace, did they leave a wife behind them unprotected?" He never for a moment thought of consenting. He was just in the midnight of fear. Awakened in the depth of night, we have only half a grip on ourselves, and fear can inflate itself and torture us. Hurrying home, he told his story briefly. They ate supper. He carried his little girl up to her cold, faraway bedroom, and then came back to Wilda. "Dearie, what made you sign so quickly, without giving it a thought?" Mr. Sinton's letter saying that he had signed. "I wonder what he did sign. It could not have been this. Oh, what a fool I was." And you can imagine the great despair. Drought had brought the forest fire, and the flames were licking towards the 2 young trees of the Lord's planting. What chance was there for survival? That spread out its roots by the river. Water is a thing that conquers fire. So down on their knees by the little old trunk in the kitchen corner went the 2, and they read the scripture. Psalms 140 to 144 fell open before them. Here are some of the verses that they found. "Deliver me, O Lord, from evil men. They have set gins for me, when my spirit was overwhelmed within me. Then you know my path and the way wherein I walked. Have they hidden a snare for me? Bring my soul out of prison that I may praise your name. Make haste to answer my prayer, O Lord, my spirit fails. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who teaches my hands to make war and my fingers to fight. Rescue me and deliver me out of great waters. I will sing a new song unto you, O Lord." The next morning Arthur was summoned again. Not knowing if it would be prison or death, he kissed his wife and little one, put a copy of the Daily Light in his pocket, and kept praying, "Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips." The Kingfisher had a sardonic smile for him. "You signed the world peace petition, thinking that we would let you go if you did, didn't you? You're a hypocrite. Come now, just what contribution to world peace are you willing to make? And then the grueling questions, suggestions, innuendos for 3 hours. I cannot do the things you asked, Arthur argued patiently in a later interview. The Bible says I may not. Arthur knew that the Kingfisher had once attended an English Bible class in a different city under CIM missionary, and that he was somewhat acquainted with the general story of the gospel. Where does it say you may not? Demanded the Kingfisher. Show me. Delightedly, Arthur went home and got out a New Testament to present to the man. But first he marked it carefully. When he brought it the next day, it was simply put aside, and later, as he was leaving the police station, a guard thrust it at him contemptuously. Here! And that was the end of that. Going home each afternoon, he saw the people crowding out of town to the execution grounds. Everyone was forced to attend and observe, school children included. Every day new names were posted. Back in the compound, Wilda, hearing the shots, would wonder whose soul was being spilled into eternity now. But they agreed that they would never comply. For 7 long days Arthur was called to go through this daily, always with the Kingfisher holding up to him a quick and easy exit if he would compromise just a little bit. Incline not my heart to say evil things. Let me not eat of their dainties, was his prayer. And every night, after that long week, husband and wife went to the little trunk and read Psalms 140 to 44. In the presence of the Lord, spread out your roots by the river, and nightly their heated fears were cooled and they were helped. But it could not go on forever. There came a day when the Kingfisher handed him a long questionnaire dealing with all the matters related to change of thought and reasons for denouncing imperialist thinking and fascist totalitarianism. Then he was given the names of 5 of his fellow missionaries and told to write a report on them. This was the final showdown. Arthur took it home, and together the 2 young missionaries asked God for the right words, and Arthur's life was at stake, they imagined. What contribution are you prepared to make to the cause of world peace? Asked the paper. Arthur wrote, I believe that the gospel of Jesus Christ is the greatest power for peace in this world, and my best and only contribution to the cause of world peace will be given as a minister or a missionary of the gospel. To the reports on his fellows, Arthur wrote glowingly all the good things he had heard. A Chinese friend happened, or was sent by God, to pay a call and found what he had done. You had better not give them that, he exclaimed anxiously. You see, they can erase your words and write in a vile charge, and there is your signature at the bottom. Arthur started back in horror. Well, if that is what they do, he cried impulsively, into the fire this goes. And suiting the action to the word, he stuffed the report into the fire. Leave-taking the next morning was solemn. That the Kingfisher would be angry went without saying, and the daily executions were still going on. We can imagine the feelings of a husband and wife as they parted, and Arthur took his weary way to the police station. The papers, the Kingfisher, and Arthur handed over his contribution to the World Peace Statement. It drew a scowl. Do you know, the Kingfisher shouted, naming the missionary against whom the charges had been laid. Yes, he thinks he's going to get out of China, but he won't. I've sent word to every port to stop him. The blast of hatred made Arthur shrink, but at the same moment he had to quickly drop his eyelids, lest the gleam of excellent triumph be seen, for he knew that this missionary was already out. Under his feathers you shall trust. The feather curtain of God had fallen so lightly and silently around his children that the Kingfisher had not yet heard that he had lost his prey. But that knowledge put new courage into Arthur to stand and to endure the next assault. Where is your report on the 5 missionaries? Thundered the Kingfisher. Arthur straightened his shoulders. I am not a Judas. If you expect me or anyone else in the China Inland Mission to do this kind of thing, you had better not try, because we cannot do it. To do as you ask would be treason to the cause of Christ. The central government has given me the authority to issue your road pass if everything was satisfactory, he said slowly. What a pity you wouldn't cooperate. A little matter has arisen. Someone has made charges against you, and they must be investigated. And an investigation takes a long time. You may go home. And that was the last I heard from the Kingfisher. He left for Peking and did not come back again. Wilden must have been overjoyed to see Arthur walk in that night. At least he was home, and not in the prison or in the execution ground. But after they had put the baby to bed and went to the corner to kneel by the little trunk, a sense of their desperate plight swept over them. 2 little grains of sand they seemed, surrounded by hate-breathing opponents, so very far from the coast, with hundreds and hundreds of miles between them and the nearest Chinese port. They were to be accused, and no one willing to investigate the truth. It was 2 despairing, hopeless human beings who raised their cry that night, "Lord, speak to us." And he did. Their Bible opened at Isaiah chapter 49, verse 25. "The prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contends with you, and I will save your children." Arthur and Rilda rose happily to their feet. "We have his promise," said Arthur. "We are not to be prey of the terrible. We are the prisoners of Christ, just lent to the evil men to show forth the abundance of his power. Our days are on deposit with him. Let him hand them out to us as his will." And so in the midst of that scorching drought, the little tree put forth tendrils of green leaves of faith in his word, and they claimed his promise to be delivered. The next Sunday, Arthur was asked to give his testimony in the church, and he took the burning bush as his theme. "You will be burned, but not consumed," he told them, and gave his experience with Kingfisher and God's answer of Isaiah 49:25. Unknown to him, it was his last message to the Chinese church. There could not have been a better one. Greenleaf and Drought was all the way through it. My cloud of battle dust made dim, his veil of splendor curtain him, and in the midst of my fear I may not feel him standing near, but as I lift my eyes above, his banner over me is love. Gerald Massey.
Thank you again for joining Wednesday Inspirational Book Lounge. Stay tuned for another installment next week of Greenleaf in Drought Time.